Welcome back to the regular council meeting for Wednesday, November 5th. Thank you for your patience as we took a break there. We are on official community plan bylaw number 2054 to be given second reading as amended. If I can get a mover.
Moved.
So that has been moved and seconded and is now on the floor for discussion. Looking around the table. We are on second reading as amended. Councillor Mayer.
Thank you. So in the spirit of trying to present the community with something different to respond to, since we know their response to the current version, there's two different, I'll do these separately, or somebody else might have a different suggestion, but I would like to propose that the downtown core be changed to low-rise mixed use. So that would bring it to the 4 stories. And that would mean then, if I understand correctly, that we could consider more than 4 stories, but it would be at council discretion.
Okay, so that is an amendment, correct?
Yeah.
And it has been moved and seconded, and that is to change the downtown corridor to a low-rise multi, which would be 4 stories. Is that the motion?
Yeah, I said the downtown center. But that's mostly because that's, I think, how we have the Harborview corridor is something separate. So I thought we could deal with that
Downtown
separately.
corridor. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded as an amendment. So we would be voting on the amendment first. Councillor Grant.
So that would be just leaving it the way it is. That's what we got now. And nobody's building down there because they can't make any money building on that kind of, if you want more vibrancy and you want more people in your downtown, then you're gonna have to give up a little bit and you're gonna have to probably put some higher buildings in there. I think that's just the reality. So my take.
So on the amendment, are there any questions or comments on the downtown corridor? Councillor Kerr.
Just a question for staff or urban systems friends here in attendance. Would this amendment be consistent with the public feedback that we received?
It would be consistent with some of it, yes.
I think that's a hard question for staff to answer based on it being a little political potentially. We have the Director of Planning, Randy Houle.
I would just ask the mover if, just for clarity, is it the mid-rise? Because in the OCP map, it's mid-rise mixed use, which is the downtown area. And then there's the property sort of along Buena Vista and Comox Ave, which is the mid-rise residential. So I just know that they're using the term downtown corridor, and I just want to just make sure that we're 100% sure what is being asked.
Sorry, to clarify, what I think I said was downtown center. Because I would like to talk about Buena Vista separately.
So right now you're only talking about the mixed use that's indicated in purple.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. I think when I repeated it back, I might have made it muddy the water by saying the wrong term. So thank you for that clarity on the downtown center. Any questions or comments on voting on this amendment? Okay, so voting on that amendment for the downtown center to be 4 stories in that, again, downtown center on the map in purple. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? And that amendment is defeated. So we are back to the second reading. And are there any questions, comments, or amendments on second reading as amended? Councillor Mayer.
Thanks. So for the Buena Vista, we also heard a lot of concerns from that neighborhood about how best to maintain the character and the trees. Can I ask staff for advice on how to meet that concern? Is that an okay question to ask staff?
I'll go over to CAO Wall to address what maybe he can.
Yeah, thanks. So what council's deciding right now is what the OCP designation is going to be. You have already made the decision that you're not going to move forward with pre-zoning any more properties within the any more multifamily properties. You're not going to move forward with pre-zoning any more multifamily residential properties. So what you're looking at today is the maximum allowable height that you would allow in that area without requiring an OCP amendment. The tree protection form and character outside of that very high level height restriction would be dealt with in zoning and your tree protection bylaws and in your development permits, which do have tree protection in, but it would be more focused on your tree protection bylaws. So I would say a lot of what you're highlighting as the concern would be dealt with at the time of rezoning within these properties. So really the question that council I think should be looking at is how much height, because that's what council is debating right now. How many stories do you feel comfortable putting in the OCP, which would allow zoning without a public hearing? That is the trigger, right? If you have somebody, let's say council puts this in at 4 stories and you get a 6-story application in, it's going to require an OCP amendment, which triggers public consultation. So this is really setting the maximum amount of stories before public consultation is triggered through an OCP amendment. So I think that those more granular concerns about fit into the neighborhood would be addressed in zoning outside of specifically just the number of stories on the building.
Thank you. So really, we're looking at height in these corridors. Do you have a follow-up, Councillor Mayor?
I'm not ready for a follow-up yet, so maybe we'll see if anybody else has anything.
Sounds good. So in regards to second reading as amended, Councillor Blacklock.
This is a request to remove one of the policy statements with respect to transportation, and I would move, and we'll see if we can get a seconder. I would remove policies 2.17, which states explore concepts. Sorry, is this a policy or an action?
What page?
It's a policy. This is on page 19 of the OCP draft. 2.17 reads, explore concepts for an active transportation route through the Comox Golf Club that connects Bonavista Vista Avenue to Port Augusta Street / Balmoral Avenue to improve east-west connections through downtown Comox. I would move that we remove this policy from the draft OCP.
Can you tell me what number that was again?
2.17.
Thank you.
Page 19 of the OCP document itself.
It's on page 63 of the agenda, and just to be clear, it's 2.17, Councillor Blacklock?
2.17 is protection and acquisition of.
That's the right one. 2.18, thank you.
I'm reading the wrong draft.
Okay, is there a seconder for 2.18, page 63? My apologies, I didn't hear the second. Any questions or comments on 2.18? I'll just quickly speak to it. I would be in favor of leaving it in there for the opportunity. It just says explore concepts, and that's one of the major connectivities through town. So without supporting necessarily that happening, I think it's important to leave it in there as a concept we would explore in future. Councillor Kerr.
Just a question for staff on the intent of this. I mean, a pathway, assuming the golf club remains the same for the foreseeable future, having a pathway right through the middle of the golf club would be a challenge. But is Explore Concepts meant to talk about a path along the outside of the golf club that would connect east and west, or is this mainly to go straight through the middle of the golf club?
This is one of the items that came out of your downtown enhancement plan. and it's something that we've had conversations with the golf course. We haven't been able to come to any workable solutions as of yet. Maybe the potential is there in the future. But the intention is we heard that lack of or desire for that active transportation or pedestrian connection between those areas. Again, we've had pretty significant conversations with the golf course on this and haven't found a solution to it yet.
Thank you. We'll go over to Councillor Grant.
Yeah, thanks. I think that putting a walkway through a golf course is not a very good idea. And even if you put it around the outside, I can't even see how that could work. Somebody's gonna get nailed with a golf ball and the lawsuit will be on. So I would agree with Councillor Blacklock that this is probably something that should be removed. Unless the golf course changes, and I don't see that happening in the near future, then I don't see any point in even exploring this. It's just staff time wasted.
We have Councillor Kerr.
Knowing the golf course probably a little too well, there has been talk about that 8th tee box and maybe perhaps moving it forward instead of a very short par 4, making it a par 3, and therefore having the opportunity to have a little parquet or town square where the current 8th tee box is. That would make a very easy access point then through to church. So I think it is worth exploring and keeping it in there. Not saying it's a certainty, but I wouldn't want to remove it.
Thank you. I'm going to speak quickly to it again. I think it's important to have in there as an option, but if it didn't get taken out on the amendment, I would potentially look at having it around or the wording to be a little bit more specific to going not through the middle of the golf course. Councillor Hazlitt.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in favor of getting it out of there. I think we're getting a little too far into the weeds if we start talking about moving tee boxes and what we can do and changing the look of the course at this point. In all reality, that decision's not up to us anyway, so there's not really a whole lot of point in us talking about the location of holes on the course. It doesn't make a lot of sense to have a path go through the middle of the golf course. Someone will get hit. I mean, the fact that people don't get hit already is kind of crazy, but yeah, I'm in favor of getting rid of it.
They don't get hit that we know of. Councillor Mayer.
I'm in favor of leaving it in. I really appreciate having the golf course there, and I also appreciate exploring any opportunities to open up that incredible piece of land more for public use. So I'm okay to leave it in.
Okay, we will go to vote on the amendment. So that's to remove 2.18 for active transportation route through Comox Golf Club that would connect Buena Vista and Port Augusta. So all in favor. Oh, apologies. Councillor Swift has a question.
Thank you. I would like the golf course to be more open to the public, and I understand that. I'm just wondering if we should wordsmith the streets a bit more. That would make it more acceptable to everybody.
So what we could do is it sounds like there is some interest in having it removed completely and some interest in having the wording changed.
Yeah.
So if you have a proposal, what we would do is you can mention it now, but we would still go to vote and it would have to be defeated. And then we would look at a new wording motion. So if there's a different wording you would propose, you would potentially look at defeating this motion and putting a new motion on the floor. Or you're welcome to share where your thoughts are.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking is that an active transportation route through the golf club to improve east-west connections through downtown. So just taking out the street names.
Yeah, so remove Buena Vista and Port Augusta, and maybe through it could say around, or
Yeah.
not necessarily through. Okay, so that is not, we already have a amended motion on the table, so we would be voting on that. If you have that wording that you would be potentially looking at, you would look at defeating the motion. But it looks like we've got a split, so we may go to vote unless there's new information. We'll go to Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I would support that. Just saying east-west, again. Yeah, I think it is important to talk about geography here, because if you go straight from Buena Vista to Port Augusta, you're going across 8th Fairway, the 5th tee box, and the 6th tee box, and the 7th fairway, and that would be impossible. Okay, right? But if you went simply from Church to Port Augusta, near kind of the bottom part of the golf course, it would be a very easy way to navigate through without crossing any actual holes. So I think just keeping the east-west is a good idea and taking the street names out. So I support Councillor Swift's idea.
Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Grant.
I think for any of you that have played golf much, you would know that they try their best to not have public out on golf courses for the very reason that it's highly unsafe. And for you guys to think that you're going to run a trail around a golf course is just, it will not work. I can tell you before we start. So I'll be against it because I just think it would be highly unsafe and it's wrong.
Councillor Mayer.
I just want to say there's other communities where this is happening. So it is possible.
And I will also be voting against, as I think there's the opportunity to discuss how the community can all take advantage of that golf park. And that's something we've really heard from the community, is how we evolve in future. So leaving it open is important. There is the motion as amended to remove 2.18. So we're voting on the amendment. All those in favor of removal of 2.18? Opposed? So at this point, 2.1 stays in. And is there another amending motion on 2.18? Councillor Swift.
Thank you. I would just like to take out the words Buena Vista Avenue and Port Augusta and Balmoral. So an active transportation route through the Comox Golf Club that improves east-west connections through downtown Comox.
Thank you for reading that out. I will second that. So it's taking out those two connection streets and just having improved east-west connection through downtown Comox. Second, so for questions or comments on that amended 2.18 for second reading of the bylaw. Councillor Blacklock.
I would, if we're going to leave it in, then I would support the change in the wording to eliminate the street names.
Okay, thank you for the
Primarily, and I look forward to hearing from all members of the Comox Golf Club at the public open house.
feedback. Okay, any other questions or comments before we vote on the amendment of 2.18, removing connects Buena Vista Avenue to Port Augusta Street, Balmoral Avenue? All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. So we would we will be voting on the bylaw as amended unless there are other questions or comments around the table. We have Councillor Mayer.
Yeah, I just want to make a suggestion for Buena Vista to see if this would be more palatable for the folks in that neighborhood. So I would like to propose that the mid-rise residential be reduced to low-rise residential, and that the current low-rise residential be reduced to ground-oriented residential.
Can you just add in the stories there, or if possible?
So it's going from 6 stories to 4 on the south side of Buena Vista, and it would be going from 6 stories to 3 on the north side.
4 to 3. I
Sorry,
think.
4
Sorry.
to 3.
6 to 4 and 4 to 3, and this is in the Buena Vista
Yes.
area of the
So,
map.
and only the brown part, like only,
Trying to figure out what you're doing here.
so,
Only this part
so,
or all of this?
yeah, all of this and all of that.
Counselor Mayor, do you mind, can you,
Motions, because you got two actually really separate pieces of property there, so.
I'll check with Counselor Mayor.
Yeah,
So
totally.
can you
Yeah.
just read the first portion, please?
Okay, so the
Thank you.
first portion would be to reduce the mid-rise residential to low-rise residential, so that would be moving south of Buena Vista, so that would be reducing it from 6 to 4 stories.
Okay, in this specific brown area on the south. Okay, I will second that for discussion. Director Hool has a comment through CAO Wall.
Just through to Councillor Mayor, is it all of that whole block south all the way to Comox Ave? Because there are properties that go through all the way to Comox Ave, or is it just the properties that touch Buena Vista? If you could just clarify for us, please.
Well, yeah, this is a challenge. So maybe I could seek some advice from staff. So we've heard concerns from the people who live on this street about the height and the level of density. So I'm just trying to propose something that would meet those concerns.
I think your intention would be everything south of Buena Vista to Comox Ave, going from 6 to 4 stories.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded for discussion. And again, it's from, sorry, can you repeat Comox Ave to
Buena Vista.
Buena Vista? In that quarter. Okay, thank you. Questions or comments on the amendment, Counselor Swift?
Thank you. I'm in favor of leaving Buena Vista alone. And I like the idea of the ground oriented, particularly on the north side. But I guess I'm a little uncertain how to support this in terms of there is an application already in process. And we've pre-zoned another lot for 6 stories. So I don't know if it goes all the way through to Buena Vista. The one on Comox Avenue. So I'm just not sure how to get to where we need to be here.
Can we just check on those two? There's the pre-zone, I believe at 1830, and then there's the building that's been longer in the queue. Can you speak either CAO Wall or Director of Planning on how that would affect those two applications, if at all? One for sure doesn't, I believe.
Through the chair, the application on 1890, and if this motion were to be passed, would be reduced to 4, and it's been previously directed to be pre-zoned for 6 stories, so that would cause complications. The application on Comox Ave with Cascadia, who they were in discussing the road standards back in July. That application has a 6-story component as well. So if that was reduced to 4 stories, it would cause they would probably have to apply for an OCP amendment in the future to allow for their 6-story proposal.
Okay, so it would affect both those two proposals. Okay, other comments on Comox Ave to Buena Vista going from 6 stories to 4 stories? We have Counselor Hazlitt.
We'll be voting against dropping the height on that. I do think that we need to get density into our downtown core. You look at a lot of these properties, even though they're pre-zoned, we're looking at 20, 30 years out with a lot of this stuff. And the majority of those properties, with the exception of the 2 that we've got pending applications on, nothing's changing there. You've got long-term owners of the properties that would have to sell in the first place. If you go to buy one of these houses on Comox Ave, it's going to be $1.5 million, and then you got to demo the thing for another 500 grand, and then you got to go build on top of that. So by the time you go to build, you're already 2 million in the hole. I mean, that's just some obviously made up math off the top of my head, but I just don't see a lot of these properties developing in the next couple of years, which I think is what a lot of people are concerned about. This is a 20-year plan that we're out looking at. and we're looking out for what the future of the town kind of looks like here. And these single family houses that have been on there forever, I don't see how it works at 4 stories. The money doesn't make sense to me. The cost of building everything's the same. And I mean, if we drop it down, great, we're never gonna see any changes along that. If that's what people are looking for, then fantastic, you got what you wished for. But I don't understand how you can make the money work at 4 stories along there, especially with the sheer cost of what a lot would be on some of the size of some of these lots because of how large they are and the properties that are there in the first place. So I don't see anything changing for a long period of time along there anyway. I think we really need to recognize that we're looking long-term for Comox here. And I don't see a need to reduce the story height.
Thank you. I'm in favor of the amendment. I think if we look at kind of worst case scenario, if building really opens up and we get building after building 6-story on Buena Vista, it would be far too much density for that area and for the current single families in that area. So while coming for OCP amendments or rezoning is definitely more work, I think it gives us the control to see the type of growth in that very residential area that we would want. So I'll vote in favor of the amendment from 6 to 4 stories in that area. Other comments around the table before we vote on the amendment or questions for staff? Councillor Swift.
I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly because I'm looking at the map on, whoops. It looks like it's already 4 stories.
4 stories on the north, it's between Comox Ave.
So we split this into 2 where we're working with Buena Vista to Comox Avenue.
Oh, 6 on that side, okay. But it would interfere.
We're looking at the high rise to medium rise.
On the south side, is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we will be voting on the amendment for that Comox Ave to Buena Vista Ave from 6 stories high rise to 4 stories mid rise. Are there any further questions or sorry, Councillor Mayor?
I do have a question for staff. Like, I'm just trying to see if there's another way to slice that to meet the desire of the neighborhood while also supporting the possibility of a little bit more density in select spaces. Yeah, I'm curious. So treating it as a block ensures that there's no chance of the 6 stories kind of looming over Buena Vista. That seems to be the safest bet. But am I misreading that?
So the OCP as presented here envisions Buena Vista moving from a single family development area to a multifamily development area. That functionally is the decision that council has in front of you. So if you wanted to try and split the difference, you could say, as long as the property fronts Comox Ave, it can have 6 stories, but if it has a frontage on Buena Vista, it can only be 4. But then you have those properties along the south that are connecting onto both of them. And council, you have a major development that's going through the process that you have granted a variance already to not require the road dedication to support the 6-story building. So the direction that we have been headed in Buena Vista and the OCP for a long time is to move that into a higher density. I don't know if it's worth saying, okay, if you're connected to Comox Ave, you can have density, but if you're connected to Buena Vista, you can't. You could do that, and then you'll get some level of density along Comox Ave, but it also means that you're not going to get any consolidation of the lots, which is required for the density to go there. So you could try and split the difference, but I don't think that's the right way to go here. I think you either make a decision that this is a multifamily node or it's not a multifamily node.
Thanks so much for that. I will leave it as is then, because I think what the community is saying is that they don't want this to be a multifamily node. Thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions on the amendment before we vote on Comox Ave, Buena Vista Ave? Story Height, Councillor Swift.
Well, I think I'm going to rely on Councillor Hazlett's comments that this is a long-term plan. So I will not be in favor of the motion simply because I don't see any change in the near future. I know everything's possible, but I think in the future we are going to see some changes there, but it's going to be a long way out.
Thank you. Councillor Blacklock.
Yeah. Long-term plan. I would remind everyone again that in 2011, our OCP on the half-acre lots between east of Church Street and west of Stewart called for ground oriented multifamily residential, i.e. townhouse or patio home. We changed the OCP expecting that owners would then consolidate lots and build multifamily. What happened? We didn't change the zoning bylaw, and instead, one by one, the properties on the north side of Robb Avenue were bought, small houses torn down, and large mansions built. If that is the plan for Buena Vista, I don't think we should support it. I think we need to understand that the 30-year future and the very financial survival of the town relies on bringing in income to pay for our rising infrastructure costs. 6 stories in the downtown core will help bring us a more vibrant community. And I think we need to support it for the long-term future of Comox. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any other questions or comments before we vote on the amended motion for second reading? Okay, all those in favor of the amendment and opposed? And that motion is defeated. So we are now back to looking at official community plan bylaw number 20.54 for second reading with 2 amended motions. There is the addition of policy 12.6 in regards to the Marina Comprehensive Development and 2.18 as amended, which is the active transportation with the east to west connector language simplified. Are there any, we have Councillor Mayor.
Okay, I'll take one more kick at the can. So now looking at the north side of Buena Vista, I would propose that we reduce that from the current 4 stories to ground-oriented residential, which would be up to 3 stories.
I'll second for discussion. Okay, so that is again on the north side and going from 4 stories down to single family residential, which is 3 stories. Questions or comments from council on the amendment on the floor? Councillor Hazlett.
This is more of a question for staff for a refresher on my memory here, but do those properties, does their sewer and water go up to Queens, or does it come down and run into Buena Vista?
We have lost Director Ashfield. This, no, sorry, you're asking if this property drains into the Queen's Ditch?
No, Queens Street. Off Church Street, you've got Queens, and I know in the past we've had multiple instances of failures in there, and I just want to ensure that in the event that that did get moved up to a higher density,
that.
Oh, I see. Again,
Pathways.
yeah, just again on this, because you're only talking about the OCP and not zoning, nothing is approved for higher density. And if an application comes in that would require upgrades to the sewer, it would be negotiated by staff with them at the time to upgrade. But we would likely have a DCC project in there as well. So I can't answer whether or not, I don't know off the top of my head which way that sewer is going, but I can say that nothing that you do today will put an undue hardship on our sewer infrastructure.
Thank you.
Councillor Grant.
And just be clear on this, so what we're talking about is this, whatever color that is. And you're talking about 3 stories, so if someone wanted to come and put a 4-story in there, could they come and apply and go through that process? Is that still possible?
You'd need an OCP amendment.
Right, but they could still do it if they wanted to. Okay.
Yes, just functionally though, that is the same for anything. Somebody could come and ask for a 12-story building, right? It's the same process.
Councillor Kerr.
Just another hypothetical. It was an excellent example, Councillor Blacklock used about Rob Road. In these changes in the OCP, could someone still purchase one of those big lots and build a mansion on it and not build 6 stories or 4 stories? Like, they still have that option to do that, correct?
Correct. This is just your OCP. So the OCP is meant to be your guiding document of where you see the community moving to in the future. Just because your OCP is indicating that you would consider 6 stories south of Bona Vista or 4 stories north of Bona Vista. If you had a zoning application in that met that OCP, it doesn't mean you have to approve it.
Thank you. Any further questions,
Sorry, I don't think I
Yeah, well.
answered Councillor Kerr's question completely. Having said on that side of things, if you have an application that comes in, we are not, part of it would be dependent on what goes into your zoning bylaws, but we are not looking at minimum densities for the most part unless council directs us to. So if somebody did want to purchase and keep it low density, it's something they could do.
Thank you. So back to the amendment on the floor, we're talking about the north side of Buena Vista in the Buena Vista corridor. And to go from 4 stories to residential or ground fill residential which would go up to 3 stories. Are there any further questions or comments before we vote on that amendment? All those in favor? Okay, opposed? And that passes. Thank you. Okay, so keeping track, we have 3 amendments on the go so far. Are there any further discussion around bylaw number 2054, second reading on the official community plan? Councillor Kerr.
Just my intention is to vote against second reading. I know we've had some discussion tonight. You come to this table with different lenses. The lens that I kind of use for my voting, or at least on this one, is really public feedback, and public feedback that I've heard, and the dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of letters that we received was against 6 stories. And so I just can't in good faith support the OCP as it is with these areas of 6 stories downtown and Comox Ave and along Buena Vista.
Okay, thank you for those comments. And I'll just move maybe, I don't think it's actually on the floor, and then we'll open it up for comments. So just so everyone can have it is on the floor. Okay, perfect. It's confusing to keep track with all the amendments. I will also be voting against, very supportive of the amendments that we passed around the language around the golf course and on the comprehensive development for the marina. But there are areas in the downtown corridor and the Buena Vista South corridor that I just do not support 6 stories flat through and through. So I'll vote against, but happy to have the conversation now on other comments before we vote on the OCP as amended. We'll go Councillor Swift and then Councillor Mayer.
Oh, well, I guess my concern really is the applications, the pre-zone that we've got that we just made and the application with Cascadia that's kind of in stream. So I'm in favor of those two developments and I would hate for them to not proceed.
And that did pass as amended to keep it 6 stories. So that is, if you're supportive of the 6 stories with those two applications and also blanket in that area, that is the motion on the floor as amended. It is supportive of those two, yes, but also the 6 stories along that corridor. Now is a great time to ask any questions if you're unsure about what the 3 amendments have been, or you're unsure about the bylaw itself as we go forward to bringing it to a public hearing. So if you're unsure about anything, please do bring questions forward. We won't rush this portion. Councillor Mayor.
I don't have any more amendments. I just wanted to say that like the overall document, I think is wonderful, and I really appreciate all the work that has gone into it. For me, I also can't support it in its current state, just based on the 6 stories remaining in the downtown core and along the Buena Vista corridor there. And purely based on the hundreds of emails we received that were not supportive of it. I think there's more conversations to have with the community. We'll be reopening this in 5 years. So I think that there could be support for different things in 5 years, but right now we don't have it. And I feel really strongly about representing that with my vote. So I'll be voting against.
Okay, I'm looking around for any other questions or comments. I may read this out while we're still, feel free to ask questions, but just so everyone knows what we're voting for if there are no further questions. So we are doing second reading on official community plan bylaw number 2054. And we've had 3 amendments tonight on policy 12.6 for the Marina Comprehensive Development, which passed, for a simplified language on 2.18, which was active transportation through the golf course for east-west connection. And the third item was on Buena Vista North to go from 4 stories to residential ground infill at 3 stories. So those 3 amendments are what passed, and that is what we are at second reading. So shortly we'll be voting on second reading as amended with those 3 amendments. Are there any other questions or comments on second reading? Okay, all those in favor? And opposed? And that bylaw passes. Thank you. So the second item is that official community plan bylaw number 2054 be confirmed as being consistent with Comox financial plan bylaw 2046 as required by the Local Government Act. If we can get a mover and a seconder.
Sorry.
That has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. The third item is that official community plan bylaw number 2054 be referred to a public hearing to be scheduled on Wednesday, November 26th, 2025 at 5 p.m. next door at D'Astaire Senior Center and advertised as required by the Local Government Act. That's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the public hearing? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. And the fourth is that official community plan number 2054 be referred to the Agricultural Land Commission for comment to confirm compliance with the Agricultural Land Commission Act.
Sorry.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. And I just want to say thank you so much to Urban Systems, to CA Wall, Director Houle, to all the public that has been part of the input process. And we will look forward to the public hearing in 3 weeks tonight at 5 o'clock. Thank you very much. We have no special reports and no bylaw adoptions. So we're on page 196 of new business. We have Comox Facility Rental and Bookings Policy CCL-087. Number 1, that council approve the facility rental and booking policy to prohibit individuals or organizations from using town facilities to promote hate and or discrimination. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the policy? Councillor Haslett.
So just confirm, I thought I saw this in there, but I just want to confirm it with staff. Say we have a group come in and they say they want to use a space. We say, you know, you're discriminating against someone. They have the option to come in and appeal that decision. Is that correct?
Oversee it well.
So the decision is initially made by the Director of Recreation. They have the ability to appeal it to the CAO. It does not come to council.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for the clarification. Any other questions on number 1? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Number 2, that administration be directed to apply the policy to all facility rental agreements, licenses to use, and leases involving town-owned properties. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you for the work on CCL 087. We are moving on to the report and update on the Comox Firefighters Association contributions and initiatives date on page 221 for receipt. And any questions or comments? I will just say we really appreciate having this update on the many, many financial contributions that Comox Fire Department and the association has made. In Part C on page 223, they list financial commitments from October 2025. And there are 5 items listed there in just the month of October. So real thank you. Chief Schreiner is here. Good to see you there. Thank you so much to yourself and the association. Just for the public, they've put towards, they've increased their school bursary from $500 to $1,000 per year, with at least 1 bursary being awarded. They've committed $10,000 towards the purchase of a community modular pump track. They've pledged $50,000 towards the purchase of furnishings for the upcoming replacement station. Committed $2,000 for Friday night youth drop-ins at the Community Rec Center, which is on trial for 3 to 4 months, and also some other items. So thank you so much for that update from Chief Schreiner and the Firefighters Association. I know everyone around this table really appreciates how the fire department shows up in the community, including at Halloween with doing the annual barbecue and hot dog and Timbits, etc. So thank you so much from council to Fire Association. Is there any, you're welcome to comment if you wish, but no pressure to. Perfect. So that is an update from both the fire department and association on their contributions and community initiatives. Are there any questions around the table on that? Okay, all those in favor of receipt for information? Opposed? And that is received. Thank you very much. We are on page 226, the Comox Valley Positive Ticketing Program. There is a recommendation from staff that council approve the town of Comox participation in the regional positive ticketing program with the Comox Valley RCMP and local governments.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions from council on the participation in the program? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. We are on page 229, the mobile food vendors on private property. That council direct administration to prepare zoning bylaw amendments consistent with the Comox Business Improvement Association's recommendations of number 1, that mobile food vendors be permitted only within the downtown core. 2, that operations be seasonal in the spring and summer. And that 3, that the town establish a licensing fee framework consistent with Marina Park model with a portion of contributions supporting downtown marketing through the BIA.
I'll move that, but I'd like to change number 1 to alternative option 1 to have mobile vendors operate in the commercial spaces in Comox, not just the downtown.
Okay, so you're moving alternative 1, just to be clear. Number 1, 2, 3 with alternative 1. And that's been moved and seconded. So we'll open it up for questions. I'll go to Councillor Hazlitt and then I'll just speak to that too.
The reason why I'd rather move 1 than just the downtown core, I recognize that while it's great to drive everyone to our downtown, Comox is more than just our downtown. There's some really good options down towards Kai Bay. We can see how well the corn dog vendor is doing over at the Leeward, and while that may be short term, they've got some really great stuff there. You can go and get yourself dinner, and there's a bunch of games and things like that right there. As the north of Comox starts to develop a little bit more, I think it's important that there's other businesses and there's other opportunities for these vendors to set up in our community.
Perfect, thank you. And I echo what Councillor Hazlitt said. I was just going to confirm with staff if it's changed to commercial locations, that would include some of the other vendors that we have that are in town and currently working, and I would say successful as part of our community vendor program.
So your question is the motion as moved by Councillor Hazlitt, if approved, would it include the already established? And the answer would be yes, they're on
Correct.
commercially zoned property.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not cutting out a vendor that we're not aware of in the program. So thank you for that change. Very supportive of that. Councillor Mayor.
Thanks. I'm supportive of the alternative motion. And I just have a question for staff. I may have missed it in the report, but I'm curious what the vendors think of this, or if they have been engaged yet, or what the engagement plan might be.
Over to CAO.
Mobile food vendors. So we engaged with the BIA directly. We did not engage with the mobile food vendors. I would suspect that mobile food vendors would prefer the motion that council has moved because it gives them a lot more flexibility in where they can go.
Yeah, I think a lot of the direction came from downtown BIA feedback, and then also just kind of our knowledge of the vendors around town. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with this motion. I'm just looking at number 3 though, and it says that it would be supported by downtown marketing through the BIA. But it's not all going to be downtown, so does that throw a monkey wrench in that?
Over to CAO for how we'd approach the change.
Item 3 is just that a portion of the fees go towards the BIA's downtown marketing. So
Okay.
a group that gets a business license outside of the downtown would still pay money towards the BIA's marketing efforts.
Okay, thanks.
Which is great. Councillor Swift.
Thank you. And I guess my query is, I'm supportive of the alternate recommendation, but I'm now wondering if we need to restrict it to spring and summer. Or if we should remove that restriction and let it be a business decision on the part of the food truck as to how long it operates.
Yeah, I think some of them do operate slightly on the cusps of that. So to tie them to not going if the weather is great, or there's a construction project and they can make some money. And so if you would support the removal of 2, we would vote this motion down and just re-motion. Councillor Swift's comment is that why would we do the timeline on number 2? Any further comments before we vote on 1 through 3, but with alternative of all commercial spaces on number 1? If you agree with the thoughts of Councillor Swift being an addition, we would vote this down and rework it. Councillor Kerr?
Process wise, could I just make an amendment to remove number 2?
Yes,
Okay, just to simplify it, so
sure.
I propose we remove the seasonal item number 2. Second.
Yeah, if Councillor Hazlitt supports it and Councillor supports it, Councillor Blacklock.
You know, I think that's where I think some people in the BIA might draw the line. I don't know, you know, I recently had the pleasure of visiting the more rural community of Bassett, and I can tell you that food trucks, year-round food trucks have completely replaced bricks and mortar restaurants in that community. And while the public seems reasonably happy to maintain those or support those businesses, the direct effect on the tax revenue for the town is significant. It does. I'm not talking on competition. I think competition is fair and we should welcome all restaurants in all their forms. But I think when you have a year-round food truck, you are now, directly competing with bricks and mortar restaurants. And you would be anyway, but now you're doing it 365 days a year. If I had a site that it was ready for redevelopment and I was 2 or 3 years out, well, then a year-round food truck for 3 years would make sense. So for me, I think keeping it seasonal, you can call it whatever months you want, March 1st to October 31st, but I wouldn't be in favor of allowing year-round food trucks.
Thanks for those comments. Just over to staff, I looked through the report and I don't see the ones that are outside of downtown or Marina Park, such as go to the one vendor up on Anderton there. They're not restricted now by time. This would be a new restriction coming on to them.
This would be a new restriction. The issue that we have and the reason this is brought to you is that our zoning bylaw is not clear as to whether or not that food truck should have been permitted in the first place, I should say. So we are coming to council to get rules in place because we don't have rules as of now.
Okay, thank you. I can kind of see both points here, so I'm not sure if there's some kind of between the 6 and the 9, and 6 to 12 months, if we can come up with something where there's some certainty during the winter months for the bricks and mortar. But I would hate for us to restrict businesses that are up and established that have been able to go 12 months suddenly down to 6 months. That could also be catastrophic to their business. So let's keep the conversation going on timeline.
Just-
Wall.
Our business license for the mobile food vendors was 1 year. So it wouldn't be something that we applied right now, but when they came for renewal, it would be implemented at that point.
Correct. Okay, thank you. But I do want to highlight that it's a change. So going from 12 months to 6 months is potentially quite a big change for them. Councillor Mayor.
I have some clarification questions based on the points that Councillor Blacklock just raised. So this was coming forward with the time restriction with concerns about competition or concerns about not paying into the taxes.
Concerns that year-round, sorry, I'll answer.
Got me sleeping.
Sorry, Chair.
CAO Black.
Concerns that year-round food trucks end up replacing bricks and mortar restaurants. And therefore, because food trucks are not assessed under the Assessment Act because they're temporary structures, the town would receive less Class 6 tax revenue.
Okay, so what I'm just wondering if some of that could be remedied with the licensing fee framework. So rather than restricting the time as a way to try to stop what is essentially prevent what happened in Masset, instead look at increasing the revenue stream through licensing, since we can't do it through assessment.
I could go over to staff, but I assume that's obviously a mechanism that we can look at as far as fees charges. So
Yeah, so that's something that council, you could make a change to what it costs in order to get a mobile vendor permit, a food truck permit in town. I think one of the other reasons for this recommendation, though, is coming out of what the BIA has said. Council may recall, I can't remember how long ago it was, but we had a presentation coming in from the Food and Beverage Association talking about the struggles that the brick and mortar restaurants were having coming out of COVID. And so what the BIA is saying in their letter is that the off season is already difficult for your brick and mortars to survive, and they have concerns about survivability if they're competing against places with no fixed cost. That can partially be offset, or it could completely be offset with a different licensing fee. But the difference in cost that a brick and mortar is having to pay to have their, it's not just property taxes, right? It's the building, it's the staff. It's all of those things compared to what a food truck has. So that's where their concerns are coming through. I'm not saying that that's something that needs to be reflected in council's final decision, but that is why they're saying that, is they have concerns for the viability of their bricks and mortars in the off season and worry that additional competition will hurt them further.
Go to Councillor Grant, and then I have a question after that. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say just pretty much that same thing. This is not the first time this has come up, as you can imagine, and the argument has always been, it's not just the taxes, which are quite big on some of those buildings, but also the building itself has to be built, and the cost to run the place is, it gets out of hand, and these guys walk in with a trailer and get a better deal. And it's very hard to compete with that. So I'm going to agree with Councillor Blacklock on leaving the spring and summer months in this.
Under this new policy, with the amendment that we are on commercial properties and not just in the downtown core, we still limit the number of vendors, right? We still have a limit of how many food vendors we can have.
No, with this, it would be an unlimited number. Now, we would look to probably limit the number of them per property. But if you change this in zoning, it would be every commercial property could host a food truck.
And in past, we have limited them because at the marina, we had a certain number.
That's
there's
town property. So on town property, we're saying we're going to give out 4 licenses per year. And then we also have opportunities out at Kaibé, I believe it is. But here, this goes into private property, and it would be permitted on any commercial property.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Looks like we've got a couple challenges to work through here on this one. Councillor Mayer.
I have a difficult time knowing what to vote on this without having engaged with the food truck vendors themselves. They like 9 months might be fine, or 6 months might be fine. Like I just is there any way to get a little bit of feedback from them before we vote on this?
I would say at the will of council, we can definitely, if that's direct, we can direct staff to do that. Just to check, is there a mechanism? I'm worried about the I think we would want some control on volume if we open it up to all commercial properties. Like if all of a sudden we had 30 or 40 food vendors on properties, we really would have a problem with our brick and mortar businesses, which wouldn't be the intent. Are we able to limit the number on private property, or is that not a mechanism? As soon as we say commercial property, we cannot limit the number.
Maybe I'll look over to Director Houle if, a system might be able to be created similar to the restricting number of cannabis shops. Was that something that could be done?
Probably the best thing to do is to not get into that detail in the zoning, but rather in the business license bylaw. When you make an amendment to change the fee or to add a business license fee, I guess that would be in the fees and charges. But if you're talking about the number of licenses, it's probably best in a business license bylaw. Same with even the seasonal portion, maybe better covered in a business license bylaw rather than a zoning bylaw.
But functionally, do you believe that is a power the municipality could exercise, is to restrict the number of permits we're giving out for that type of business? I know it's done on cannabis shops, but that was unique to me, a new thing that had come in. Is that a power that would exist across different businesses? Right, like I'm not aware of any municipality restricting the number of McDonald's or jeans shops or anything like that. I'm only aware of it with cannabis.
I think that municipalities usually just generally don't weigh into the game of let the market decide on how many businesses should be appropriate. But I believe you could do something like that in a building bylaw, a business license bylaw, but we should explore it further.
I'm going to go over to Councillor Grant.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, I mean, we're sitting here trying to figure out what the BAA might think and how many months and all that. I think we should actually just defer this, go back to them, find out what they mean, talk to the food trucks if that's what you like, and do it that way. I mean, we're we're trying to guess what the BIA is thinking, and I don't think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we have generally what the BIA would like to see, and then the concern though is how does it actually affect the vendors? But I have more questions after our conversation because there's business bylaw things, so I feel like we're maybe not quite ready tonight.
So how do we can we defer this, or do we just vote it down and?
I would,
just go do
are
it?
we able to, I would look for deferral, but then we have to figure out what we're gonna get in the interim of deferring.
Yeah, I would, you can defeat it and we'll bring it back. You can defer it. That's not my concern. I guess my question would be, what information are you looking for? I think the BIA has made their position fairly clear. And we can go out and ask the vendors. These vendors wouldn't be impacted, so it would be that one vendor. They're gonna push to have the biggest season that they can possibly get. I don't think that's gonna add anything to the decision that council has. What I could see perhaps being useful is finding out whether or not underneath our business licensing bylaw, we can restrict the number. But if that is the case and council's now looking at trying to restrict because you want to protect your brick and mortars, you have the BIA telling you now how they want you to protect their brick and mortars.
Yeah, but what you've got in there is it says spring and summer. What is that? Is that 2 months? Is that 5 months? Like, I don't know what we're talking about there. So I'd like from them or possibly from you to tell me what months we're actually talking about.
So we can bring that back in the specific updates on the bylaws. But I guess if that's the only concern, we're just talking about the margins at each side, and council could probably make a decision today on the system you want, and then we'll solidify it as we move forward. Like, we can take care of that in the next step. We need to understand what system council wants.
I think we are talking about one food vendor, and I think the BIA has made their stance pretty clear. So outside of getting more information on the business bylaw, I probably would have enough information to pass like a 7-month, April 1st to November 30th, knowing that it is impacting that one business and we can come back to it as needed. But I think we have the direction from the BIA. We are deviating slightly by adding in the other commercial areas, but vendors are gonna say they want 12 months and BIA is gonna say 6 months. So knowing that information, I think we can potentially make a judgment call, or we can defer. Councillor Mayor.
I have maybe a different question, because now I'm starting to lean towards supporting the original motion. Well, because like we're just really thinking about what the intent was of the BIA. But then that raises a question to me of like, would we make exceptions? Or what would be the mechanism for another commercial property to invite a food vendor? And that could be an easier remedy actually to have a process for that rather than to say any commercial property can have one whenever they want.
There would need to be a temporary use permit or a zoning amendment requested. Temporary use permit is probably where you'd want to go on this. It would be a $1,500 application fee for up to 3 years to allow it.
So I would, oh, go ahead. Well, yeah, you had your hand up, so.
Councillor Hazlitt, just a reminder, they still have to go through the chair.
Sorry.
I think we're under the impression that all of a sudden when we make this decision, we're going to be absolutely swamped by food vendors trying to go to every single property. And that simply will not be the case. I mean, we had empty places in Marina Park this year, one of the most pushed areas of town in the whole Comox Valley. And we have empty food truck vendors there, and we're trying to get as many people as we can down there. I understand what the BIA is looking for. I think that we need to include other parts of Comox because Comox is not just our downtown. And I really, looking outside today's the 5th? I mean, nobody's going to stand in line at a food truck. It's pouring rain, it's blowing sideways. Like, I think the weather is going to dictate and the seasons are going to dictate when these people are going to be open. I mean, if it came to me and it was go get a burger at Marina Park in the blowing rain, or go sit on the patio, or go sit in the Blackfin and have dinner, I'm going to the Blackfin. I think the market's going to dictate what it is. I don't believe at all we're going to be overflown by food trucks here. And next thing you know, we're selling everything under the sun. I think we're overcomplicating this. the original intent of my motion was to make sure that we're not just limiting these businesses to the downtown core, because I believe that Comox is bigger than just our downtown core.
So supportive of your motion on the floor. CAO Wall has comments and then we'll go around the table.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that how many come, I don't know, but I can say it is a live issue. I think we've had 2 people approach us for further permits, so that's one of the reasons that we've come. That one little blip in the marina, that specific food truck got sold, and then we put it back out and we were able to find somebody to come down. So it's to your point, we don't have 10 that are looking to come in and set up right away, but we do have a couple that are looking to set up in town, dependent on what council decides.
Okay, and just to go, before I go back to Councillor Blacklock, what we are voting on at this point would be to whether allow the amendment of number 2 to be removed, so it's 12 months. And also that the downtown core is changed to all commercial spaces. So just bringing back what we would be voting on, shall we get to that point? Councillor Blacklock.
Yeah, sorry, just for clarification, there's an amending motion on the floor to remove the time
Number 2.
limitation. That's
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, and then it'll go
Correct.
back.
But
to
it was
the
also,
motion.
okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Just to further add to the discussion, these are mobile food vendors. So the key word being mobile, which means they have choice in where they might set up and operate. So our neighbors to the west in the city of Courtenay have, with respect to mobile food vendor licensing, you require a business license and you can operate on private commercial property if that said property is zoned for restaurant and located at least 30 meters from an existing permanent food establishment. So that's how they've handled it over in the city of Courtenay. So maybe for harmonization or equal level playing field, maybe we want to look at something like that to further complicate the issue.
Thank you for that point. We'd have to look into all the reasons why they would be near other food establishments, but I guess they're trying to make a hub.
Sorry, can't be within 30
Can't be?
meters.
I heard can be, and I was like, I don't want to.
At least 30 meters away.
Okay. Thanks for those comments. Councillor Grant?
I think we've beaten this to death. And then we took it out and beat it again. So I think what my intention would be to move on with this. I will vote against removing spring and summer months because I think Councillor Blacklock has convinced me, and then get back to the regular motion. So I would call the question.
Okay, I will call the question. Everyone's looking like they're nodding their heads. So we are voting on the amendment to the amending motion. So amendment to the amending motion, which is only to remove the operations be seasonal. So all those in favor of removing 2, that operations be seasonal. Opposed? Okay, so that will not be removed. That will stay in, and that came out of the discussion. Thank you. So now we are voting on the alternative motion that mobile food vendors be permitted within the downtown core and commercial zoned properties, that operations be seasonal, spring and summer months, and that town establish a licensing fee framework consistent with Marina Park model with a portion of contributions supporting downtown marketing through the BIA. CAO Wall.
Sorry, just for clarification, the motion on the floor is that mobile food vendors be permitted on commercially zoned properties, not just within the
Yeah,
downtown.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mushed up the wording, but any commercial properties, which includes Marina Park. Okay. Any questions or comments? I don't know.
Just for clarification, alternative 1 says direct staff to prepare zoning bylaw amendments to permit mobile food vendors on all commercially zoned private properties in Comox, subject to applicable business licensing and health and safety regulations.
Thank you for the clarification.
Marina Park is a separate discussion council. We have a system going. This is to find out what you want to do on your commercial properties. So right now you've got that motion on the table. Councillor Blacklock has suggested potentially harmonizing with Courtenay, or you could take a different direction. Councillor Mayer brought up restriction through maybe changing the licensing fees. So you've got a number of directions you can head.
Thank you, but it's alternative 1.
That's on the floor.
Perfect, with 2 and 3 also added. Counselor Kerr.
I like this 30-meter designation. Would that be something we could add at this time? Question. So, okay, I'll just put that out there for thought, food for thought.
I will second that for discussion. So the discussion would be that it would not be within 30 meters of other restaurant establishments, brick and mortar, assuming that that was read correctly as their current bylaw. I'll second. And so for discussion on this amendment specifically, which would be number 4 of the discussion. Any questions or comments before we vote on that amendment? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. So we're now voting on alternative 1 with 2, 3, and 4 added for food vendors on private commercial property. All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously, and we will go with that. CAO Wall has comment.
Great. Thank you, council, for pushing through and providing direction here. That's really appreciated. So this is going to be coming back to you in your zoning bylaws. So you do, I understand that you ended up in a very different place than what you thought when you started. So you do have a chance for sober second thought when the zoning bylaw comes. Just saying this is not a final decision. You will have a chance to take a look at it. But having this direction tonight to be able to put it into your zoning bylaw is much appreciated.
Thank you. And allows for some private consultation or community check-ins. Thank you. We are on page 233, the solid waste fees amendment for 2026, that fees and charge amendment bylaw number 2016.10, a bylaw to update refuse fees charged to service recipients be given first, second, and third readings. Seconded. For discussion, any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thought you voted there for a second, CO Wall. Do you have a comment? Okay. Notices of motion, there are none. Under page 244, under correspondence, we have correspondence from Rosemary Abram for Zim Zimmerman, Keep Comox Charm delegation request. There is an appeal for the economic approach to housing delegation, and we will have a vote for allowing this delegation. If there is 2/3 majority vote for council members, the delegation will be allowed. Again, this delegation request is on 244, and it was declined based on already having received a similar delegation. CAO Wall.
Yeah, thank you. So we had a delegation application come in to speak on your OCP, speak in opposition to the OCP. We declined that delegation and asked them to instead come to the public hearing that was to be scheduled, that council has now scheduled. They withdrew that application and submitted a new application, which quite clearly says subject matter not OCP, but instead Canadian Economic Approach to Housing. Staff recommended to Mayor Minions to deny this application and instead direct them to come and speak at the public hearing on the OCP, as we believe the matter to be related to your OCP, and that's where we are today.
Thank you for that short background. I'm just looking at how to word the vote. Okay, all those in favor of allowing the delegation to appear on the November 19th, 2025 regular council agenda. This would be all those in favor of accepting the delegation. And okay, and those opposed to the delegation. And that is defeated. So the delegation will be invited to attend the public open house. Thank you. There are no late items. We are going to do reports from members of council. We'll start with Councillor Blacklock, Swift, and Hazlitt, please.
Update from the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance Summit attended last week by myself and Councillor Grant. it was not all doom and gloom. There was some bright spots. We especially enjoyed the session on tourism and making inroads in Indigenous tourism. That was quite an entertaining session, and we learned a lot about how one might establish a tourism bylaw in one's community. Thank you.
Okay, I attended the solid waste management meeting in Councillor Grant's place, and no surprise there. There's going to be an increase in the fees. Percentage of waste for Comox is 51% of organics is 51% of our garbage waste. So it's fine, but there's always room for improvement. I attended the sewer meeting yesterday, and I attended the regular Philburg board meeting, and they have the results in from their festival, and they were very pleased that they made in the neighborhood of $96,000, which is $1,000 less than last year, but certainly within the ballpark. So they're very pleased with that, and they had their data showed that they had 15,500 people come through the gate, but it's not 100% accurate because it didn't capture any of the children. So it's ticketed people. Yeah, you don't want to capture children. And lastly, they are doing their annual Christmas market the day after the mayor's tree lighting. It's from 3 until 7. So there'll be vendors and lots of things like hot chocolate and crafts and things for kids to do and Santa will be there. So just another Christmas event, and hopefully the kickoff of their lighting up the park as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson.
I attended Nautical Days board meeting with our green team, who is actively searching for volunteers. So if you'd like to come help out with that or get some more information, reach out to myself or Councillor Kerr, or I believe even Bob Bowen, our lead for the green team. In addition to that, we are still open for board members for the Nautical Days committee. So if you or anyone you know would like to help us plan next season's party, then please reach out and we can get you the information you need to sign up.
Thank you. We'll just go to the other side of the table. Councillor Kerr, Grant, and Mayor.
Thank you. Just update from that waste board that Councillor Swift mentioned. Really interesting how much diversion has been happening from the landfill. Huge reduction in garbage with that increase in the organics. So great work, Comox residents, on that, and also just reflection on how much angst and trepidation there was going into those new bins, and really how little we've heard negative about it since. So it's great, and also at this time of year with the extra drop off for the organics and leaf yard waste. That's been really helpful as well. Today I attended the Comox Valley Social Planning Society's Heart of the Community Award, along with Mayor Minions, and just congratulations to Karen McKinnon and Betty Tate for winning the Bunny Shannon Award for being the heart of the community. Appreciate all the work they've done. And lastly, a couple updates from CVRD yesterday. I'm sure Councillor Grant has a couple. One I just wanted to mention from the Water Committee meeting was July 2025 was the highest month of water usage in the Comox Valley ever. And it's kind of funny because it was a bit of a drought, and when we see all this rain that we're getting now, just a reminder that grass does come back, so you don't need to water your grass quite as much because it comes back. All right, so with that, I'll pass it on to Councillor Grant.
I also attended the conference in Nanaimo, and it was quite refreshing to have. It wasn't all politicians, so there was a lot of business people in the room. There is some doom and gloom in there, in that they're not really thrilled with where our economy is going, and they'd like to get that straightened out. Water, you just talked about. So sewer was the big topic there, is the South Sewer, and they want to take the DCCs there and leave them at the original rate. rather than increasing them. So it goes from about 7,000 to about 19,000. That created quite a discussion. Nobody quite figured out how they were going to make that work. It's a little bigger issue. It sounded as though they were going to take about a $14 million hit and leave that for the rest of the community to figure out how to pay. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. So we invited the RD to come to ours and Courtney's meeting sometime in January with more information and to kind of go through this with everybody so we can all get a better feel for what they're asking for. And at the board meeting, we talked about, what did we talk about there? Oh, the shelter on Cumberland Road there. Courtney is asking for about 36, well, they're going to be asking for about 36,000. It was a late item that showed up. The conversation was kind of, what's Comox doing with it? And of course, I'd never seen it because it just showed up on the agenda. So that letter should be coming soon for our discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Mayer.
Thanks. I attended the CAMS board meeting as usual. We'll be having our AGM in December if anybody wants to come visit the museum and art gallery. And I also attended a municipal subcommittee of the Food Policy Council. That's it.
Thank you. Just some couple of events to announce, and I'm sure many of you are aware of them, but just for the public, I want to thank the Comox BIA and Sue Wood and the many volunteers that came out on Friday for Halloween to make the Halloween parade a success. It was very bad, rainy weather, but there was hundreds and probably 1,000 kids on the closed street, and it was still a really enjoyable event. So thank you to Downtown Comox BIA and Sue Wood for putting that on, and to the fire department for doing their annual Halloween event on that evening. And I'm not sure how many people came through the fire hall. Lots. Normally a sellout. So thank you so much for those two community groups for making Halloween safe. A little bit rainy and windy that day. Remembrance Day is coming up. We were able to receive the first poppy and invite everybody to come out to the Remembrance Day parade on November 11th. I believe it starts around 10 or 10:30, but I'll share out with council when that will be. And there'll be a follow-up event in the Legion as they do annually. Holiday events, surprisingly, are coming up already. It feels nice and early this year. Courtney is doing their Midnight and Magic event next Friday, November 14th. It's in the evening, but their tree lighting starts at 5:30. That's next Friday. Our winter market and Mayor's tree lighting in Comox is on Friday, November 21st. So that's the following week after. And it goes from 3 to 7 because we have the market with the downtown businesses. And we welcome everyone to come to that, as well as the tree lighting around 5:15, 5:30. And Cumberland also hosts their holiday event, and that's 2 weeks later, Friday, December 5th, which is actually in December. We are planning an exciting 80th anniversary for the town of Comox. It's our 80th anniversary since incorporation, January 14th, 1946. So we'll be kicking off a week-long celebration January 12th to 18th and doing an event on January 14th, which is the 80th year exactly. Our communications and administration department is working with Pearl Ellis Gallery and CAMS to put together basically a week long of exciting events, and they will have more to share with us when they come out with a press release in 2 weeks. So just a note, it's our 80th anniversary, January 14th, and there's going to be a week long celebration. Lots of old photographs coming out and just basically celebrating all the different eras and generations that Comox has had since incorporation. And I've seen some pretty cool photos to date, so that should be really fun, and council will be asked to take part in that. Last week, communications jumped on an application to apply for HGTV hometown takeover. It came really quickly, and we basically put together an application and asked different partners and community groups to come out and do a quick little fun video with us. We had 2 hours notice, and I think we had about 40 people come out from the fire department, from recreation, from Philburg, from the airport. And if anything, it was a really fun exercise to see how many people just kind of dropped things right at lunch to come out for a quick photo. So if you're wondering where that came from, it kind of came up at the last minute, and we decided to jump in and do an application. And there'd be potential for some pretty significant funding where they come in and do some basically economic development in our downtown. We focused on the sewage conveyance project and how much that has hurt kind of the entry into our businesses, retail, restaurants. So it was very last minute, and I tried to keep everyone in the loop at the last minute on that. I went to speak with Youth Council before our council meeting today. They had lots and lots of really great questions. So I think what we'll try to do is, every quarter or so, get myself or a council member out there. I went to go for about 20 minutes, and we were 45 minutes into lots of really interesting questions about the pump track, about Mac Lang, about the environment. There was 10 youth part of Youth Council, so they've done a really great job on growing that Youth Council from what we saw last year. And I just really appreciate the work that Ted and Hannah are doing with that Youth Council. And their council from both Courtenay and Comox, but they meet at our Comox Rec Center. So thank you to our Youth Council for that. Lastly, just want to mention there was great engagement from Comox Council and others at the 50th anniversary of the Child Development Association Telethon this weekend. Thanks to Steve for being on the lines. They raised somewhere around the $135,000 mark in one day of telephone calls. And just watching the amount of artists that gave their time, volunteers, it's a massive community undertaking. So for a one-day telethon to raise $135,000 in this economy, just in our Comox Valley, was really nice to see. So thank you for everyone who was able to contribute in some way or form. And that is it for me. I don't see any media questions. Are there any questions from the public? If you don't mind taking the mic, Bob. Welcome.
Hi folks, thanks for your hard work. And I was aware of the waste management meeting. This is about solid waste fees amendments. I was aware of the waste management meeting. I didn't look at the notes, so I appreciate you folks going there and talking about that. My question is not about the rate changes, but I think way back in the beginning, now that we're over the angst of curbside bins and all the rest of that kind of stuff, I think I remember in the early days when there was a discussion about cameras on the bins being identifiable and the cameras on the trucks and monitoring contamination in the bins. I'm not sure. I remember Sarah Willies talking the other day about contamination. I wasn't clear on where the contamination she was referring to. It was in the garbage or the green bins or the blue bins or where exactly it was. But that's something I'm concerned about. And I've actually saw somebody one day when I was driving in town scurry out, the bins were out, and scurried out with a white, presumably plastic bag, and buried it into his green bin. I didn't stop. I should have stopped and said what was going on, but I probably not my place. But I'm just wondering about where we are with respect to monitoring what's going in, as opposed to trying to figure out what's coming out the other end. And it's a kind of, my view is a user pay. So if, I think Ms. Whaley, somebody said that the only way they can figure it out now is when they dig through the garbage when it arrives and the truck came from a certain area of town. So if that's where we're at, I think that given lots of advance notice and instructions, that those folks should be given a notice saying some contamination was coming out of that truck, and all of you are going to pay something. I don't know if that's fair, but I think people have to be moved out of their comfort zone a little bit. And I'm just wondering where we are in terms of monitoring with the numbers on the bins and the cameras and whatnot.
I'm going to pass this over to CAO Wall, and maybe perhaps we can also put you in touch with Sarah Wiley directly, who might have some more concrete information.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't know why the identification of contamination system that we were promised is not operating. And that's not a regional district thing, that's an MTerra thing. I'm going to follow up and find out the answer, and then maybe next council meeting I can report back to you. It's,
Great news. Thank you very much.
to the other point, we can't do group punishment, like we can't do that, but we need to get to what we were supposed to have, which is identifying people who are not who are providing contamination and giving them a warning, and then after the warning, giving them a fine. That is something we can do, and I don't know why that system is not in place yet.
I think too that Courtney has folks that go around and check in bins, I believe. I'm not sure about that.
We had the same program in the summer. Courtney and the town got grant funding from the federal government, which allowed us to hire some ambassadors, we called them, to help get that process started. But that grant funding has run out. I don't believe Courtney's doing that again next year. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
Thanks for the great question, Bob.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. So we are now going to resolute to go in camera and exclude the public based on subsection of section 91 of the community charter for the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm interests of the municipality, NK negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service. Moved and seconded. All those in favor of going in camera? Opposed? And we will go in camera at